So, Jacob, how long have you identified as black?
Since we started this interview, since you said it was okay for me to, then I was like, all right.
This is a safe space.
Might as well. Yeah.
Yeah. We're transformers in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just like, if logic can be black.
If someone that's half black can be black, then...
Yeah, exactly.
But shoot, kind of pivoting. Why'd you adopt kids?
I adopted. I mean, okay. So my oldest daughter was in foster care, which for yeah. Okay. sorry. I just realized like part of it. It's like I don't want to tell her story.
No,
for
definitely.
her, so
yeah.
I'm just gonna steer away from that. But why my wife and I were really interested in adopting kids. Like she grew up we both grew up very religious, but she grew up going to church with a lot of families who did a lot of foster care in Arizona, right? Which in foster care is when you have kids who get removed from their homes and they get placed in the foster care system, and the goal is to get them back to their parents, but many times it doesn't happen, right? A lot of times the foster families adopt them. So there were a lot of families in her church that were adopting and fostering kids, and so that was something that was always kind of stuck with her. So when we got married, that was something that she was always very like adamant to do. She's very pro foster care and things like that. So when we were young, we were probably 23 years old when we started fostering my oldest daughter. She was 5 at the time, which was
Miranda Cosgrove, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you think she looks like Miranda Cosgrove? Yeah, yeah. She's 14 now. She's getting older, but she's a great kid. But having a kid just literally like dropped off at your doorstep. Like it's a store.
Like no goodie bags or nothing, or
yeah, she just had like a bag of all her shit, and it was like, that's it. You know what I mean? And I don't even remember if she had luggage or anything like that. A lot of kids in foster care, they go from house to house with a trash bag. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not a great experience. Like the foster care system in Arizona is not great, right? But she had a really good caseworker that helped us through everything, and even with our second daughter that we adopted, helped us through that process. Like most people didn't have, and I wouldn't call we had a smooth experience, but most people had even crazier experiences than kind of what we had. Our kids were severed pretty quickly after we got them, and severed means that the parents no longer have rights for.
Is there
for their kids.
when you're like I assume is it by choice, or is it kind of like I would like a girl, or is it like?
Yeah, you can say we prefer a girl, for a boy. You could say you prefer a white kid, a black kid.
No, I know that for sure, but
yeah.
It's kind of more like, is this
age?
this situation like it's just like this person just doesn't have any family ties. This is for keepsies, or like this is gonna be like an intermittent cycle of her family coming in and out of her life.
We didn't know, and usually you don't know because the courts play out their game for months and months and months, and it's a lot of waiting. It's a lot of not really knowing what's gonna happen until like literally the day where they're like, okay, you can adopt them, and even after that, it's like until that paper's signed, like I don't really trust it,
Is there preconceived notions that you thought about adopting, or since you already had so many friends or family that done it, you're like, oh, yeah, this is how it goes, or?
They definitely helped. Yeah, they were very. We had people that we could kind of lean on for experiences, and a lot of what they said was like, you kind of need to be their advocate, right? That's really not in the job description as a foster parent. Like your job is really just to take care of the kid and give them a good home and a place to be and to be loved, whatever. But you also kind of have to be their like legal advocate in some cases and advocate for services, because there are so few services available for foster kids that they're gonna be kind of left,
Is there
forgotten if they're not somebody like pushing for.
What do you mean services like getting
like therapy, counseling?
okay?
There's a lot of like programs for foster kids in Arizona, like arts programs, things like that, or even just to like to say like we want to adopt them. We believe that we're the best fit for them, and you don't get that much of a say. Like when you go to court, it's not like you get to go up and say your piece. The judge will usually say, is this, who are the foster parents here? And then you stand up and say, yeah, we're here. And they're like, well, do you have anything to say? And it's mostly just like, we love them, and we would love to have them.
Is it kind of like
home.
a situation? Because I think of like say like you say you marry a woman that you're not the father of the child.
Yeah.
But you raise the child till he was like 10. And then you guys divorce, and then it's kind of like cut ties. It's just like you don't really have any rights to see that child anymore. Could your rights?
If you don't adopt them, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of people will. Like if you marry into a family and they have kids, a lot of times, the person who marries in, you can legally adopt them. But that's usually if they, if the father's out of the picture or the mother's out of the picture.
I didn't even know that was a thing for like married couples. You
Yeah.
can opt in.
Yeah, you can.
Is there a time where say like the kids what are the name of the kids? Is there like a time parents, since they're still around, could they like just like the court's like, all right, well they're fit, it's time for you to go back with them if they want, like, or is it like their choice?
Is it
I'm just saying like could the parents take back their kids if the courts like say like
not once they're severed? No.
Oh, okay.
Once they're severed, they lose legal right to be their parent, basically. And it's kind of weird. Like when you adopt them, it'll be like you get a birth certificate with your names as the parents.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird because like obviously I wasn't there at the birth. You know what I mean? Like it's not. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things, and I feel like it's like the system is supposed to be there to help parents, right? To like if you're in a space where you lose your kids for whatever reason, whether it's a lot of time it's drugs, but it could just be you can't afford to have your kid, right? Like so many families are broken up just because they don't have the money, right? And the state will pay foster parents to take care of kids, but they won't pay parents to take care of their kids. You know what I mean?
I get it, but it doesn't seem like that makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna pay the foster parent, I mean, I guess that's like a whole nother talk about like politics.
Yeah.
Like the income is just like you could just pay the parent, but I guess it depends on factors. If the parent is showing patterns of being unfit.
No, of course, it has to be a safe home for the kids, but it's a lot of times it just is a matter of means, and it's like this can be prevented or this could be stopped. Not like it's not like every person who loses their kids are just an angel or a saint who's just in a bad place, but like a lot of times, this stuff could be prevented.
Was there a dynamic shift to your lifestyle once that happened? Like once like girls came to the door, and it's just like I'm gonna go out to the open mics. Like your wife's like, nah, like we have a kid here.
It was a while before I started comedy that I was I became a parent way before, so probably 4 or 5 years before. So at that point we're settled into we're parents and this is our home life and etc. And comedy kind of became an opportunity that I wanted to pursue.
Was there any was there any shifts that you had to like make? Because I don't know like what other like recreational activities, because everyone has like, hopefully some people have a something they like outside of their work.
Right.
So it's just like, oh shit, like we need to get a babysitter, and it's just like, oh what, we need to pay money for a babysitter.
Yeah. Luckily we had and still have a lot of family that lives in Arizona.
Gotcha.
So
forgot the Hispanic culture. So
Free babysitter. Yeah.
my father-in-law, he says like, well, when you guys have a baby, I'm gonna have to move to Arizona because who's gonna babysit it? And I was
Oh
like,
yeah. No, that's a big thing in Hispanic culture. It's like it's almost offensive to pay for a babysitter. It's like, oh, you could have just brought them to my house, or you could have, your grandma wants to see them, so and it works for us. So.
I feel like when my sister, in her like I think during her pregnancy, my mother's just ready to move to New York just to be,
Yeah,
just to be a nanny or something, I guess.
yeah, that's yeah. I mean, you can. It's some yeah.
How is it in the, cause I guess cause I'm Hispanic, I'm Dominican, but I didn't grow up around all my cousins, so I guess I don't really have the culture. I just have the culture of a bunch of races, just cause friends groups and stuff.
Sure.
Or do you talk to your abuelita, or like how?
My abuelita, yeah.
Well, how is that like the Because I feel like that's a foreign concept maybe to Spanish culture of like adopting a kid, kind of like how sometimes like therapy. What is that like?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, for sure. It was different. Like nobody in my family had really done something like that. It didn't. Honestly, I didn't really care, right? Like, because at some point, like, I don't know.
Not that
in a lot of ways, it didn't make any sense, right? We were very young. We weren't really established. We didn't really have the means to really be parents. I mean, we lived in like a 2-bedroom apartment. Like we moved to a 2-bedroom from a 1-bedroom because we wanted to foster. But at some point it was like, okay, this kid exists, and they need a home. You should put that in.
No, I know. I did. I feel like a penis, and it's just a spam email. But yeah, go on.
Well, like it's at some point, these kids, they can't wait. You know what I mean? When you have a kid, and we knew her previously, and we knew that she needed a home, so it was like, there's really no waiting for the perfect time.
How is it with that? Because I know I feel like adopting a baby is a whole different thing. Like it's like you gotta, I don't know. It just sounds expensive from like my friends that try to like have a surrogate and things like that.
It's very different.
So,
it's very different.
Do they actually like for proof of income, or is it kind of just like, dude, if you can take care of her, take care of her?
I think there was some kind of proof that you make like some minimum amount. It wasn't much though, because ostensibly you're supposed to be given the funds needed for taking care of them, which it's never enough, but it was enough to help us get to that point where we could, and we made it through. It wasn't like we didn't have a lot of money, but we made it through that period of our lives. But yeah, so adopting a baby, our youngest daughter, she was only a few days old when we started fostering her.
Oh wow, really?
And so she was, but the difference between that and maybe like what most people know is if it's through foster care, if it's a private adoption, right? A private adoption is very expensive. That's your overseas adoptions,
I feel like that's like
that kind of
customizing a baby like on Nike for a shoe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're usually working in the Nike factory too. But it's very different. You pay a lot of money, and like surrogacy, you pay a lot of money. But foster care, it's like these kids are here, they're in your neighborhood, they need a home, we'll pay you, and people are like, I'm gonna go to China.
I just feel like
which like no shame on anybody does, but like I don't care. But it's very different.
Well, and your kids are Hispanic also, right? Or what, like ethnicity, or is it very ambiguous?
My youngest daughter definitely is. My older is a little more ambiguous. We just got her a 23andMe for Christmas because she wants to know.
That doesn't help anything.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, because, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, the only thing is just like, oh, I'm Moroccan, and then,
1% Ashkenazi Jew. Yeah.
there's this one girl. She was like, she did her 23andMe, and she's like 85% European, and she's like, I'm 1% African, I'm 1% Colombian, and it's just kind of like all the countries Europe colonized.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I did that, and I kind of. It was kind of disappointing, but I was kind of glad to be disappointed by it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what is this like website supposed to tell me about me? You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is the path of my ancestors or whatever, but like.
I feel like it only helps you like it's just like, all right, so if I time travel, I should not go to these countries.
These places. Yeah. Very useful in time travel situations, I think.
Oh yeah. It's just like if I want to go eat some pizza in Italy. Oh, actually, I'm 0.5.
I have a cousin over here. Yeah.
I could fuck some shit up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always think about like time travel. It's just like, what if you're waiting in line and you buy the last Big Mac of the day, and then this person that meets your grandfather was supposed to buy that, and they meet because the bowel movements, and they meet in the bathroom, and then he meets his wife. And I'm
wow,
like,
that was erotic. I want to read you time travel fan fiction.
I don't know. You said like I don't know. I feel like when you said about the babies, like in the Nike factory. I just had like this quick thought about you taking your daughter to like the Nike out, like the stitching on this is horrible.
Yeah.
This has to be done by Lee.
I know. I'm gonna send an angry email. Yeah.
Did you know how many kids were you gonna adopt, or is it just kind of like just kind of winging it? Just like maybe another one.
We did 2 pretty quick, and then we were like, 2's a lot. 2's way more than I thought it was gonna be.
Well,
a lot of work.
Your oldest she's 14 now.
She's 14 now.
So I don't know if like at an age it's just like, because I assume it takes a little bit to adjust. Maybe some people it's just like, oh, this is a new home, so like.
No, it's never that easy. There's a lot of like counseling and therapy, and it's ongoing. It's always ongoing. When you have like a huge trauma like losing your family, you know what I mean? It's huge.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure like at what age, like if you adopt someone that's over 10 and they kind of maybe already have their personality. And it's just like, it's going to take a while, so just leave them on autopilot. Just like, oh, here's some food. It's just like, all right.
I wish. I wish it was that easy. Yeah.
It's like, here's a gift card to Sephora. Just kind of go off.
There you go. Drop them off at the mall and pick them up.
Make sure just hope they don't get kidnapped.
Yeah. That's all you can do.
Was there a big switch up in your marriage that you weren't expecting, or is it kind of just like?
Oh yeah, yeah, huge. I mean, it's like, God, just the amount of work that it takes, to manage a household. So it was a lot of work for her. I didn't do much, but
just for her. I don't know, because I always think of it like. Because like the goal, this is nowhere comparable. I just have like a dog. It's like if I get another dog and then we have a baby, it's like so much shit in the house. So it's like that seems a lot to handle.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Did you learn anything about yourself, or is it because I could imagine there's like some frustration moments, or was it just kind of I don't know how you are with your ex, just like I just need something to relax, or did you find what did you learn about yourself in that whole process?
I don't know. I mean, it makes you grow up. Like, it forces you to just really just kind of grow up. In, like, things where it's like, oh, I can put this off, or whatever. And then it becomes like, oh, if I put this off, like, we're going to be homeless. And our kid's going to be homeless. And, it just puts things into perspective, and it makes you be like, oh, okay, I have to do this. Like, I was in school. We were both in college when we started fostering her, our oldest, and my wife graduated, but I still had a couple years left. I didn't really know what I was gonna do, and it was a lot of like, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that, and then at some point it just became like, I gotta just pick something, stick with it, graduate, get a job, like.
Do you think
there's no second option?
So would you say it like removes the flexibility? Because sometimes I think it's just like, what if I just like get a part-time job as like a waiter and then just study and just for a while? Does it remove flexibility of like, maybe I want to search at other jobs? And it's just like, well, if this job doesn't work, like.
Kind of, in some sense. I mean, we're lucky, you know, like we have a good like family and support system around us, and we did at the time. So it wasn't like, you know, we're all on our own and we're not, you know, if we don't make this work, we're dead. But it's like you do kind of have to really seriously consider things, right? You can't just like flippantly like, oh, I'm gonna go, you know, live in Europe for 6 months and backpack, or I'm gonna go be, I don't know,
No, yeah, I
work at a
definitely
cruise line. I don't know.
You know, Naomi was talking about that when we were at Red Robin. She's like, I feel like, you know, because we turned 20, she's turning 24, I turned 25 like next
Mm-hmm.
month. So it's like we should like just do that before we have a kid. Like
Mm-hmm.
just get that over with.
But also like we did it so young. Like when I'm 43, I have this all planned out. When I'm 43, both of my kids will be adults, right? And so it's like after that, like that's when people are having kids usually. You know, at 43, I'll be in a different space for sure. You
What
know
if it's
what I
like, you ever watch King of Queens?
Yeah.
What if you just have a baby like when you're 42? Just restart. It's like, okay.
mean? I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna get a vasectomy right after this, and so that doesn't happen.
Has it? What is it? Did you adopt? Because I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's. I don't know your life, but it's like I wouldn't seem at such a young age there's a problem having a children. It's like in your early 20s, or where you're just kind of like, we don't really want to have kids. We just rather adopt.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't even really like a matter of like, do we want our own kids? Do we want to adopt? It was just kind of like, again, like there's this kid that we knew from, you know, another family who had fostered her, and we knew that she needed a home, and so that was really it. It was like, she needs a home, we have a home, we can make it work. And it was like, if you can make it work, and you know, this is like such a deep need, you know, for this kid, it was like, it felt impossible not to do it. And part of it was very, I mean, I was, you know, we were very religious, right? So part of it was, you know, this is something that God has, you know, chosen us for, or put in our life or whatever. And part of me wants to like kind of be like, you know, it's not like that. But there is a part of me that kind of always has that, where it's like, you know what, there's something higher, something bigger, or whatever that you can do with your life. And if this is it, or this is one of the, you know, the bigger things that you do in your life, it doesn't really matter what age you're in or what situation you're in. I feel like it's, you know, when you have that opportunity.
What religion were you, like Catholic, Christian?
We were Southern Baptist, so like very fundamentalist, evangelical, Christian. Yeah.
Have you kind of, well, you've grown your hair out, so I assume you kind of like waned off of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more you look like Jesus, the less you believe in Jesus. I think that's how it goes.
That's a quote right there.
No, I don't know. Like I feel like my relationship with religion, I feel like changes all the time. Like there's a lot about Christianity that I really like, and like about Jesus that I really like. Like he was a very radical figure. He was a very like, you know, he flew in the face of like authorities and government, and like he was just very I don't know, revolutionary in a lot of ways, right? But not in a way of like, we're gonna pick up swords and we're gonna kill Caesar, right? It was like he was looking for like a third way, right, of maybe engaging with the world. And I still think like it's an amazing, you know, story. But yeah, no, I'm not, like, I don't go to church or anything.
I think because it was the same thing. I think like being like, I don't know, we found, at least myself, is like, it wasn't, it's just like, you're supposed to be, I felt like you should be ignorant of every other religion and not even look at it, right? Because that's the devil's work. And it's just kind of like, I feel like that's such a closed-minded thing. And I feel like, because I've seen a lot of people when they go into like their 20s, they're kind of like just, they're not as adamant about it, because they're just like, well, I'm just like, I want to know like what other things are out there and how does it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I feel like I did some of that, right? Learning, but I don't claim to know a whole lot about, other religions. I do feel like I know a lot about Christianity. Like when I was in high school, I would just come home and I would read the Bible for like an hour every day.
Well, you sound like a nerd.
I'm still a nerd. Like it's like a chronic illness. Like I will never be cured of like being a nerd. It's
in a joke. I'm not saying you're a nerd because you look. It's a joke, but I don't know.
No. I know. No, it's like, dude, get a life, right? Like if I could go back and like tell my high school, but then I wouldn't be, the person I am now, that kind of thing. So
I just feel like it's like I don't know. I don't know if you've seen this like the church like go get some bitches. Like
I wish I could tell my older self or my younger self that, but he wouldn't have listened. He'd be like, "You're here to lead me astray." Yeah.
Do you see? Because I just assume like I don't know. Whenever I'm like kind of not saying like super like I'm just aware if I'm like the oldest one and I'm like babysitting. I'm just like aware of like what I'm saying. Like if I'm around somebody's kid, I'm just like I may be an example. Yeah. Do you think of that when it comes to like religion? Or just like, well, what are you instilling? Because I think I'm not like super adamant, but I still think it just gives you some values to go towards that otherwise you wouldn't have, like religion.
Yes. No, I think like again like what the person I became, because of religion is something that I appreciate. Like I feel like it taught me a lot about being able to just like sit with thoughts and to like think about things and like now it's kind of become a very like it's become more of an obsession with like philosophy now for me. Like I kind of replaced what I would I would spend hours reading about this and that about Christianity has kind of moved to philosophy, but I think that's one way that kind of it influenced me. Because I mean it's a huge book that's just filled with teachings and different theories of things written by Jewish scholars and theologians and these apostles in the New Testament. So it's like it's people trying to think through like the bigger questions of life, and like those things have always been super interesting to me.
Do you think? Because I can never quote the Bible or anything like that. Since you're so deep into Christianity and studying it, do you see people pick and choose where like some things it's just like that doesn't exactly mean that, or it's just like yeah, you're saying this, but then it also says in the Testament XYZ as far as like say example like it's a sin to be gay or like an abortion and all this whole nine yards.
Yeah, it's like that whole like picking and choosing thing is very interesting, right? There's obviously like a lot of different, there are verses and there are chapters and things that people will quote to kind of serve their agenda, but it happens on both sides. I hate to use the term both sides, but like a liberal reading a Bible or a conservative reading the Bible, they're gonna read it differently, and they're gonna like certain things, and they're gonna not like other things, and they're gonna try to explain away this thing and explain away that thing. And I feel like for me, I like that there are contradictions in the Bible. You know what I mean? Like I like that it says one thing here and it says another thing here, and it's like, well, that's kind of the point. Like we're trying to work through all these contradictions in our life. That's like we've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. You know what I mean?
What do you think on like the versions you read? Because when I was reading, I started with like the kids' Bible, and like it doesn't give the message at all.
No. Better pictures than like the regular Bible.
Well, just even the imagery, not wanting to say like blood, for example, because I was reading it and I was like kind of taking notes, and I thought that like there's a situation where God gave every single species on this planet a chance to rule it. So I thought there was an era where there was like turtles were the main people of the planet.
Oh, that would be so cool.
like us. It's like, back in like the deer civilization, and it's just like now it's humans' turn.
Yeah, now it's our turn. Everybody else messed it up. Humans, I guess you get a
It's
chance.
like episode 55.
Humans, yeah. After us is giraffes. they're next.
You see, dogs are getting pretty smart.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it might be dogs. It might be dogs next.
It's just like, out of nowhere, chimpanzees. I don't know, just turns into like the ESPN.
Planet of the Apes. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the top rafters.
Oh shit! Oh, we see
baboons.
iguanas making a steep incline in their progress. Just yeah. Well, that's what I kind of see. Like, I feel like it can be very misconstrued, or maybe as far as kind of watering down, and you can kind of with these different versions. Do you see like, oh, like I could see why you think that if you're reading King James, or if you're reading like, I don't know any other Bible besides King James, but like it's hard to read. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely King James is tough to work through, but no, there's tons. I don't know if off the top of my head, it's been a while, but
I think even reading like stuff from like 1900, like 1901, because 1900 sounds weird to say, but like it's hard for me to understand their dialect, and I can imagine if you're reading something that's from quote unquote like 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, it's just like, oh, it didn't mean that at all. It just meant tacos on Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays.
There's definitely a lot of like cultural things that they're referencing, right? There's like so many parts of the Bible. It's like, they're referencing this old like Babylonian myth, and like if you don't really understand that Babylonian myth or have heard of it, then you're not gonna understand this. So yeah, it is like, I mean, it's a product of their time, right? It's a product of these are ancient works, right? And it's the same thing if you're reading like the Iliad or the Odyssey. Like it's all
there's like, so it sounds like there's cultural references.
Oh yeah.
In their time. It's like if you read something today and it's just like, it's Britney, bitch, and then we totally they read that 1,000 years. Britneys are all bitches.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah, exactly. It's synonymous with bitch. That's hilarious.
Just kind of wrap it up. I mean, I feel like there's like a lot of points. We went from adoption to kind of just Christianity and all that. I really enjoyed that. I mean, I said this last time. Shoot, you watch this 10 years from now. What do you want to ask yourself?
So I'm. So me 10 years in the future.
Yeah.
Is asking me.
No, you're asking yourself.
Oh, I'm asking myself.
You're just like, hey, did we ever get a mullet?
Did we ever get a mullet? Yeah. I mean, I could do that right now if I wanted.
10 years of courage to get a mullet.
10 years. It takes me 10 years to do it. God, I don't know. Is the Earth still around? I guess in 10 years. That's what I would ask.